We are live with, I don't know, the Uplift, and it's been a really long time, but definitely, we've got something good for you guys, and I guess maybe we'll just talk about some interesting things that are going on with Minetest, which is an open source version of Minecraft, which is allowing us to do some really interesting things. More of that in about 21 and a half seconds. Building blocks of a future metaverse. There's some, we'll shut them out a little bit later, but there's some amazing people on the back end of the Uplift, some doing some wonderful things. Some of them you know, some of them you don't. Definitely go on over to the uplift.world and check out the blogging site. There's tons of events happening. There's some really cool things happening, some BattleBot arena things. It's like, again, like super snowy outside for whatever reason. There seems to be a white blanket of snow every time I get on here with you. And I mean, I'm just having a riot in the crypto space. Watching this whole SBF FTX thing unfold now. I mean, like, honestly, Corey, like, I've almost given up on blockchain and crypto for the simple reason that it's such a shit show with backdoor rooms and all of this VC funding and all of this other crazy stuff. But what I've come to the conclusion, I've been doing Pomelo pitch decks recently for some of the projects that are over on Antelope.io and that are coming into the space. And there's some really exciting things on other chains as well. I mean, Polygon's doing some really interesting things. There are projects out there that are definitely worth their salt. And, for those of you that think that certain things are irrelevant, I'm excited to see what happens in the next year or two, because we've got some pretty amazing things happening behind the scenes for the people who have taken the time to actually plug themselves into the Minetest test server. What do you think? What's your take on everything that's being built? Is it exceeding your expectations like it is mine?
Yeah, behind the scenes stuff, I absolutely agree. Like I'm obviously I've been way too freaking sick for the last, COVID 3 months ago, and the cough never went away. And the last week has been, actually literally had pneumonia this past week. Like I feel like I'm too young to have pneumonia. It's fucking ridiculous. Anyway, so like it's just been frustrating to feel like I'm not contributing enough. But while that's going on, right? Gary's giving us tech demos on what we're doing in Minetest, and like it's going to be substantially more powerful from a play to earn perspective and a game mechanics perspective, combined with NFTs and otherwise than Minecraft, which is really fun. So we're doing a lot of work that way.
Well, I think that the benefit to blockchain is open source transparency, right? And I mean, Minetest allows us that. It's a completely open source platform that, I mean, there's people that are playing around with hemp blocks, and there's people that are playing around with crafting things for the game, for the metaverse, that don't use a crafting table. I mean, imagine that. There's some really interesting adaptations that are happening. I mean, the whole events that used to happen over in the PvP Minecraft arenas have been. Did I actually see like a bot of you fighting in an arena? Like, there's some
like you're gonna be able to acquire battle robots and fight them, which is gonna be fun. Like they'll need to be recharged maybe with some in-game materials, and we've got some really cool game arcs. Developing that way, right? So yeah, there's tons of different things that we're going to be able to do. A lot of it's going to be, we're going to be able to purposefully connect it to the Upliftium economy. Obviously there's going to be shops, and there's going to be, all the stuff that the majority, I should say, of the stuff that we're used to in the Minecraft version of the Uplift. Yeah, so that stuff is, and like just even from what we've already produced, it's going to be incredible. Like it's going to be really good. I know Dennis is working on like a totally different app, because he's fucking Dennis. He's like, oh, I'm gonna he's had like an NFT game in his head for a long time, and so he's behind the scenes working on that stuff. He's got a behind the scenes demo right now where he's got GPT-3 the chat bot embedded in our website, so that anytime you feel like talking to an artificial intelligence, you just can, which is something that has been fascinating me a ton. And then I'm working on getting, like, in the near term, getting the transition to one of ones started. And basically that's just going to mean that you can pay some wax and get your generic land NFT turned into either a picture of the map, or a picture from in-game, or a video of in-game. We're going to have some different rarities that are possible, just so we can start getting kind of more artistic and sort of land-specific images on these NFTs out there. Just I think that's going to be really, really good for the culture, right? Because, like, when you see a generic land NFT from the Uplift, while the images, I mean, Dennis, for each one of the worlds, just blew it out of the park every single time. They're generic, right? You don't get a sense of what it looks like there, and there's a lot of opportunity, I think, there for us to create a collection that has really, really long tail value propositions to it.
Yeah, so right now we're kind of sitting across two platforms. There's the original Minecraft, and I mean, for anyone who was asking in the chats, right? Like, this is still all operational. You can still go in there and interact with your builds. Of course, it's a little bit slower than it used to be, with that shattering Minecraft announcement. But I mean, how many times have we seen announcements in the crypto space that get rolled back? I mean, how many times has China been banning Bitcoin?
I said, you remember, dude? You remember I said the day after Minecraft's or Mojang's announcement, they're not going to enforce this. You know how many times they've enforced it? Zero.
Yeah, and I mean, but the backup plan, which is kind of been voted on through the DAO. If you don't know, the Uplift is I don't know if this is the right terminology, but I'm going to brand it. The Uplift is an incorporated DAO through membership holders of people who own those DAO tokens, which gives you the right to vote. And a lot of the votes that we've seen in recent months have actually acquired the possibility of building out on a new platform, and Mindtest was the one that was kind of decided by the community. And so we're building out really cool things. You've been saying for a while, we're probably nowhere close to getting out of this bear market. I mean, it's potentially possible that the end of the bear market will, not financial advice, coincide with what a lot of the major news media outlets around the world are calling for, in terms of a major global recession coming in 2023. Now really is the time to be building. Right. Now is the time to be out there and looking at what we're building. And I'm actually surprised by the progress that we've made here so far. And we've got a demo, I believe, next Wednesday. This Wednesday? What's today? This Wednesday.
Yeah, we're doing the huddle on Wednesday. I think we're doing the demo on Friday.
Sorry, you're right. We're doing the demo on Friday, right? We're going to do a test demo, an internal test demo on Wednesday. But on Friday, we're going to be showcasing all the new things that you can do over in the Mindtest world. I think you're going to have an episode together with Super Sam, and you guys are going to go in the world and kind of check it out. I mean, if you happen to be watching this, and you don't know what's going on inside the Uplift world, just go over and check out, our blog, right? Because we've got where we hide all the Uplift, like we've got posts coming out, even potentially more than what we had, at the height when we were, seeing an influx and building, like at the height of the bull run, right? And so this for me is really interesting because if you can see all the events and all the people that are engaging, I'm excited to get to a point where people can actually interact with their own plots of land on Mindtest, and then, start to build. I think this is going to be an iconic shift for the project when people can actually come and interact with their own projects on Mindtest. Right Right now, everything is just being built out in the test server, but there's a ton of little interesting builds and tweaks, and there's blocks now that are like half blocks, that are angle blocks, that are quarter blocks, like just little simple things from an aesthetic perspective that I think is going to change the whole dynamic. I mean, I guess you could say one of the downfalls of using Minetest is that there's no shaders, but in a way, why do you need shaders when you've got all these new block types? And a lot of people love Minecraft because of the way that it looks and the nostalgia of it. I mean, what happens when you can create a world with your own nostalgia, right? And you can apply.
Yeah, here's where I think this is going to get really interesting, because I think you're right to sort of the like looking at what people have done with the blocks and micro blocks, and the fact that we like it's actually pretty easy for players to help us create blocks and textures, and there's going to be a lot of that stuff going on. So we're going to be able to kind of boot that stuff up from the ground, and the building experience inside Minetest I think is going to be a lot crazier than what people are used to. Now, I don't know if you have seen, Jimmy, the video where somebody took a build inside Minecraft, very blocky, right, and ran it through a stable diffusion filter. I don't know when this is going to come at all. Please hear that caveat, because sometimes people hear me make statements like this and like, oh, that's going to be out next week. No fucking idea. Literally no clue, right? But it will end up happening. It is inevitable that we're going to be able to run our blocky three-dimensional worlds through graphical filters that are dramatically more enhanced and amazing and customizable than any filter that's ever been made for Minecraft. That's going to happen because it's just data. It's just visual data. And we're going to be able to crunch those things on our machine. So I think, and again, like, I don't know, if and when we ever want to try and develop something like that, we might do it internally. I think it literally is inevitable before somebody does it, outside in an open source capacity and stuff. So I think making our, blocky world into like a dramatically beautiful world is going to be, I still think it's totally inevitable. It's interesting too. Like, I've had lots of meetings with, we actually had a meeting with the Unreal team. And my first question is, how do you build a persistent universe where people can go in and actually put one block on top of the other and have it be persistent? You cannot do that with Unreal, right? Like, it's just not designed to be able to do that in the server architecture kind of way. So as much as we've been looking into it, as much as I think we're going to have, some iteration of the Uplift, in an Unreal environment, like the work that's going to be need to be done in order to have the same metaverse, in my opinion, the real metaverse feel in Unreal, I think I think it's a lot, right? Because they're really building for these, really beautiful environments that just get reset every 20 minutes. And once they're built, they never get changed, except to get blown up and then get rebuilt. So yeah, that part's kind of interesting. I am more excited about the choice that ended up getting voted on and made with Minetest all the time. Like, it was the right call, and it's going to be really powerful for us to keep testing out the different kind of use cases and mechanics that we like with the Uplift.
Well, and when we have people like Gary, the architect, and Modded Outlaw behind the scenes that are actively working on developing things on Minetest that have never actually been created before, right? These are things that the Minetest community isn't even aware about, right? Like, these are things that aren't happening over on other servers, right? These are completely original and completely new. I mean, we did do that back in the day a little bit. I mean, we took a little bit of flack for it, but we did kill all of the traders. We emancipated them all, and we totally changed the game dynamic, with shops and widgets and things like that, which was an interesting experiment. But I think the ability to be able to do that more and more in this Minetest version of the metaverse is going to be really exciting, right? And it's going to be interesting to see how the beyond Uplift world community sees what we're doing with this. And I could actually see, a lot of fanfare coming in from kind of people who might have abandoned Minecraft for other reasons, and, you know, are having a heyday over on their own private mine test servers. So I'm kind of excited to see, right? And I think if you have some ideas, if you're in there and you're wandering around right now, it's kind of a free for all. I mean, the only thing that we're really asking is that if you go into the test server, that you don't mess up with other people's builds, right? Because if you do that, you're not really helping, and we don't really want you around. So, you know, go in there, mine some blocks, build whatever you want to build, test things out. But if you're doing that and you have this idea, like there was a really interesting chat I saw the other day about hemp blocks, right? So like one of the things you can grow in mine test is hemp, and you can make hemp blocks, which is kind of funny because like in order to make hemp bricks, you burn the hemp, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like, right. So, but like you could potentially doctor these as, you know, craftable measures, and have them come out in a more realistic capacity, right? And when we're talking about, you know, Minecraft, and one of the benefits, other than building on one of the most popular games of all time, one of the real big things about Minecraft that I always really liked was the fact that it did actually have an educational aspect to it, right? Now, what happens when, you know, some group of individuals decides to take something like the Uplift world and create an event or create a game that has customizable blocks, right, for an educational purpose or for a different project purpose, right? Like, I mean, some of the spin-offs that we were talking about with the DAO, to be able to create your own world, this even gets more interesting because now what you have is these spin-offs with a focus potentially on one thing, right? Like, we're going to teach kids how to do this, or we're going to use our company to be able to run all of these events in our own server, right? I think everything that we were building before on Minecraft just gets more exciting and more enticing with this whole idea of an open source platform, less restrictions and more open to the ability to craft it, no pun intended, the ability to in our own image, right? Like, so
yeah, you know, it's fun. It'll be, and obviously for anybody who's curious, you know, you can go to our website or the Discord now. The MyTest test server is open, right? So you can go in and play around with a lot of the things that you know, Gary's building and that his team are building, like the bot arena is in there, and you know, there's a bunch of really interesting stuff. And yeah, you can play it on the phone. You know, I was talking to somebody was telling me that you could play it on like a Raspberry Pi. Like, it's like this thing will play anywhere, basically. Right. Yeah. So yeah, it's super slick as a you know, as a piece of software. So yeah, that's going to be you know, another thing. And again, like, I think we're barely scratching the surface of it. You know, once we all get in there and start iterating on it. I think it's gonna be good. And like, I'm not really bought in on the recession thing necessarily. It's always a possibility, but you know, there's been enough, you know, high muckety muck bigwigs talking about it for long enough that I think they're actually baking it into the market already.
Could be
now, right? And now, you know, I could easily be wrong about that, right? Like, the war in Ukraine keeps dragging on. Energy prices in Europe this winter are going to be a pain in the ass. Blah 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 blah. Things could get, you know, ugly. But I think there's potentially manageable. But still, like, it doesn't matter anyway, right? Like 2024 until the end, you know, flipping over into 25, like that's when, you know, shit's going to get real anyway, right? Like, we've got time, and you know, I think the more robust of a collection and a platform and a game and a metaverse that we have going into you know, 2024, you know, I think is going to be where the real rubber hits the road.
Yeah, and I think it's a good thing, right? Like, we're probably at that point now where we're going to be able to see a lot of bad actors weeded out. I mean, I was shocked. I was surprised. I mean, anything can fail. I guess, you know, if you took the glasses off and, you know, actually listened to the critics, it's potentially possible that the whole Terra crash could have been predictable, right? But I don't think anyone saw the FTX thing coming, right? I don't think anyone saw a platform whereby the corporation that was involved had a backdoor code to be able to reach in and move funds, right? This doesn't do anything good for the crypto market when it comes to, you know, a segregation effect and decoupling from the economy as it is. Actually, it's probably worse, right? So I'm hopeful that if there is another recession and we do, you know, get to the point where we can call out these bad actors, we can call out the VCs, we can see things like what's happening with the Antelope IO ecosystem, where it comes to DeFi and actually protecting users from hacks, and maybe getting a little bit of mainstream injection from projects that are building over there. We said that a lot with Newcoin. There's a lot of really cool projects that are building on Newcoin. There's a lot of really cool projects that are involved with the, you know, the accelerator over at IBM, right? There's a lot of cool art projects that are doing really interesting things in the blockchain space. Once we get to a point where, you know, we can prove in a transparent, open way that these projects are trackable and anyone can look inside, and that there are no, you know, dark rooms or corners in the basement where the monster lives, right? This is when we get to mainstream adoption. And so I'm kind of excited for the time that it takes for, you know, the next bull run to reach its apex in terms of that, right? Like, I mean, Bitcoin's not going anywhere. Ethereum, like, probably not going anywhere. Like EOS, some of these top projects that have been out there for a really long time that are truly decentralized, they're a really good role model for places like us that are trying to bridge into this whole idea of DAO governance and DAO direction, and the ability to build something that the community can not only partake in and enjoy, but like be rewarded at the same time, right? So, yeah. I mean, I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, you know, I think I can't add anything to that. That was a fantastic summation of where we're at. And really, like the to me, as long as we could rig the Uplift to survive, you know, the next 3-6 months, you know, then I think, you know, we're going to be in a position to rebuild. And we've done most of the hard work to get to that point. It's been tough, right? Like, you know, we went from actually having a budget to not having any, right? Like, we're not making any money right now as a DAO, really at all, right? So like, and we have to change that in order to really, you know, start to build back up. And really, like, what I'm excited to do is start, you know, creating some revenue and start banking some freaking wax, right? I mean, that, like, what should have been done under our erstwhile corporate overlords that they didn't do, even though I told them to do. It's like, you don't spend all your fucking money, which I like. I'm a fucking guitar player. I thought that would have been obvious. Apparently, and you know, like we know that this market is cyclical, right? So like, a huge part of what we absolutely have to do running into the next peak is get runway for 4 fucking years,
right? You
know, like and there's no spending beyond that, right? Like, everything that we do has to amortize out to lasting a really, really long time. And I'm excited to make sure that we do that really responsibly this time.
Well, and if you're here and you're still listening to us, you might, you know, remember, you know, me and Corey sitting here kind of at the end of the last bear market. And I mean, that's when most of the building happened. That's when most of the projects that we were associated started breaking the mold, right? That's when, you know, Corey and I were back in the day exploring projects on especially the EOS IO chains and all the things that they were building. And we look at what came out of that, right? Like a dead chain, a dead project that, you know, completely mismanaged VC funds now being taken over by the, you know, ENF. And we've got some really good injections of capital coming from both community and corporate investors, right? So I think that's really exciting to see, you know, where we're headed. But for me, what I like about the Uplift and our chances of survival is that if you're in the bear market and you need something to distract yourself from, you know, the pain and misery of the crypto crash, the best thing to do is get in with like-minded people and play games and be grateful and have fun and build something of value. And I mean, there's a comment on the screen that we've kind of haven't addressed yet, but yes, I mean, that's a nice thing about it. I mean, one of our limiting factors on Minecraft was always that we were having trouble connecting to anything other than a PC. right? Anything other than a computer, right? Gaming consoles and things like that didn't really work. I mean, tell us about the possibilities and the options for what Mindtest can do. I mean, you no longer have to pull out your computer. This really shows you where my presence has been for the last 20 years. You don't really have to pull out a computer on the train and plug into the Wi-Fi, which doesn't exist in most countries in the world, to be able to play Mindtest and the Uplift world. I mean, you can do it from multiple devices, things that we've never even been able to do before, right? And how many times?
And it was TC's in the comments, and so Lisa Chandler, Roger, hello. But TC, I think, was the one that was telling me that you could actually play with a Raspberry Pi, like a tiny little, like sort of kind of computer. You can whip up Mindtest on that, which I think is I mean, it's pretty fucking cool, man. Like it's fun. So yeah, and that part is like any exposure to mobile is going to be a really, really big deal, right? Yeah. Which is why I think that the app that Dennis has been brainstorming behind the scenes is going to be really helpful on those regards as well. So,
well, and I think like any exposure to a real game, right? Like again, we're watching the crypto markets, and I can't really think of very many games that were hyped during the last bull cycle that people are still paying attention to and playing. I mean, there's a couple that are out there on the Twitter, that seem to be having some updates. I mean, I like the idea of Ultra.
Splinterlands is doing really good, right?
Yes, Splinterlands is doing good. I mean, there's updates from a couple other projects on EOS, but what other games are happening? Do you know of any? I mean,
no, but to be super fair, I haven't been paying, attention too much to the larger market, right? Especially like for the last few months being under the weather. Like if I have extra brain power, I'm thinking about the Uplift. Just because, that's my peeps. This is where my sort of responsibility is. So yeah, there might be, right? And like I see tweets from like Crypto Stash every once in a while, still playing a lot, and there's stuff that's coming out. That it's frustrating seeing all the people, besmirching all the clicker games, saying there's like no real games, on Wax at all. I'm like, really? I mean, not entirely true. Yeah, and so but I mean, yeah, I think the presumption of our demise is a little bit early because
I mean,
we're gonna crush it.
Just like EOS, right? I mean, you get the right timing, and you get the right people interested. I mean, I'm really excited. I've been doing Pomelo pitch decks with some of the projects that are looking for funding on EOS, and one of the ones that I interviewed this morning, they were talking about basically building an open source project to be able to plug games into this ecosystem. And that's one of the biggest problems. I mean, other than Wombat, I'm not really aware of any platform or any project that is actually ushering in real world gamers into the blockchain. Now, if you don't know about Wombat, what I love about Wombat is you're actually being rewarded in tokens for playing games that aren't even on the blockchain, right? That's a really brilliant first step, right? Yeah. Instead of all these other projects that are saying, oh, we're going to convince all of you gamers to come to blockchain and make money, which obviously hasn't worked so well up until now. What you do is you reward people for using your platform. And once you can get to that point where projects are feeling like they're actually making a dent in the world and attracting people to the idea of blockchain, that's when more games need to be on blockchain. And I'm not taking out projects like Ultra and stuff. Like, they've been super quiet. They've got some super intelligent geniuses working on the team, from back in the day. They've been testing a lot. I think when they actually come out with a full-fledged platform, it's going to be really exciting. But that doesn't mean that we're just going to go from, oh, we built something and it works and all of these people are going to adopt it. We still have to tackle this idea of getting people, that might not trust crypto And there's a lot of reasons not to trust crypto right now. I mean, if you're looking at the news, right? I mean, why would you ever throw your weight into something when there's all this fun and all this negative energy? Now, I do believe that in the future, things are going to turn around quite nicely. But we do have one more announcement. I did know I had something on Wednesday. On Wednesday, we have a workshop actually that is happening. And you, Corey, and Super Sam are going to chat about the Uplift world, and we're going to do a demo at 2 p.m. EST. There's going to be a giveaway of 20 million Upliftium and 500 plot shards. So if you're interested, go on over to our Discord channel and check the announcements. You can find that up there. And definitely interact and share these posts out. The more people I think that we have in there building things in the mind test world. Again, I don't have much say around these parts anymore. But if I have to fight anyone on the team tooth and nail ever again, the reason, Corey, will be that people don't agree with me that we've decided to kill the test server. Now, I think it's okay to lock the test server, but in my opinion, it needs to remain intact forever, kind of like old world, and just be there to see the progression of moving forward, right? Like,
yeah,
I don't know what I'm gonna do with it, right?
feels better. That feels better to me. Like, it's almost like we could grid it out, and you know, the people that have built really amazing things, like maybe we can gift them an NFT, and because you're right, like that, the old world thing, like, and we, you know, I think we still have work to do with old world too, but that longevity and the cultural significance of the things that have been built and the trails that have been blazed by people, I think is really important for me too. Like it's sort of it's a cornerstone of kind of who we are and the values that we've been, you know, putting forth that, you know, are going to last a lot longer than, you know, whether we're this kind of game or that kind of game or whatever.
Well, and so we've taken a really interesting port too, like which I think is worth people knowing, because we've seen a few people popping into the Discord recently and asking what's going on, and I just want to point out, right, our first actual world where people can have control of their own NFTs and their own plots on Mindtest, those will actually, well, I mean, initially we're not selling those plots. Actually, those plots are going to come from interacting with the things that we built, right? I mean, I think that's the general idea, the general consensus. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but it's not like we're going out and we're creating a whole new world. Like, you know, we did that on Mornin, we did it on Uplift, we did it with, you know, Genesis and Gratitude. We branched into Ethereum. We did all of these great things. And then, you know, we ran into a couple snags, but the idea with Mindtest, you know, for the first mini world, I think if I'm correct, that goes out is you're in there, you're engaged, you're part of the community. You know, you're not going to have to really pay any money for a plot. Do I have that kind of right? I think that's where the way
that I haven't read the proposal in a while, but I think, yeah, the general idea was that it, you know, you might be able to well, definitely with shards, like what TC was saying about buying shards.
Yeah.
I think that's not a terrible idea. Again, not financial advice, but I definitely, you know, I get shard bursaries for some of my positions and stuff, and I won't tell them.
Right.
Not anytime soon. Anyway, so yeah, the idea is to, you know, you might be able to you know, burn some land from one side, or like have a collection of land on one side. We'll give you some land on the other, whatever. But yeah, we want to make it, you know, an engaging thing, and that first one is not going to be a sale. Now, granted, like this is why we, like, I really need to boot up that the one of one NFT thing, because, you know, we are going to have to start producing a little bit of revenue. But yeah, we'll make it all work. Long story short, like, yeah, the first initial mind testing is going to be as sort of a game to play to get into it as possible, I think.
And I think, like, you know, yeah, for some people there might be way too many worlds, but if we look at the kind of dynamics of how the worlds were created or why the worlds were created, some of these worlds that we had over on Minecraft, actually, they were created for the sole purpose of giving land NFTs to people who were engaged, right? Like they weren't originally, they didn't actually originally, they weren't put on sale. They were given as gifts or things like that. So and I think like if you look at some of these maps, right, like Genesis is full. There's like it's, and even if you go to the secondary markets and you look, right, like there's still a decent you know, area of land that might be usable. The only ones that we really had trouble with, and it was more of a timing thing, I would say were the Ethereum ones. But we've kind of in a way, the DAO has kind of come up with this idea of like a land recycling program as well, where like you can potentially you know, trade in an NFT that you have on one of these other many worlds, and you know, recycle that back into the system, and hopefully be able to get a new piece of land over on the mine test server. As far as this, I think like there's some ongoing discussions about this in terms of creative and survival. Corey, maybe you have a little bit more insight on this than
I don't. I would say that we've got a and we should actually have Chris on, because she's been keeping much more on top of sort of the proposals that have been going around in the general consensus about what we should do. I believe, and we should confirm this, but that, you know, a creative map is not really on the radar anytime soon. If there was like a ton of demand for it, then, you know, that might end up you know, changing, right? Like that we might end up I mean, if tons and tons of people want to see what this would look like, we could totally do it. I just say, like, where the vibe that I've seen anyway is that there are so many awesome, amazing opportunities to create really vibrant economics in a survival world cluster, you know, in mine test, that that's sort of been where things have been headed. But yeah, so it could be interesting.
I don't want to get myself into trouble here, but like, you know, I can foresee a time where we look at test servers or we look at the engaged community. I would love to be able to just go, you know, into the DAO discussion channel and say, look, we've had 250 people here busting their balls in the test server, and I want to write a proposal that each of those people get a new land in a new world, right? Like simple things like this that work, right? The more that you guys go in there and interact with the test server, the more data we have, the more people are able to implement, the more ideas we have. It's actually, I think, a lot more difficult to be able to build on mine test in a way, because the possibilities are really that endless that without the DAO proposals and the direction of the people who are engaged, it's really hard to pinpoint what people want to do, right? So definitely,
well, that's we're having to really start, and we've been leaning on Gary a lot for this, and the team that he sort of got building up around him, because it's like that, the paradox of too much choice, right? Like that there's so many different things that we could do, that just trying to figure out what we should do to start, you know. So I think it's just like getting in there, getting started is going to be the most important thing. Yeah, I just want to say what TC was saying about one shard for one block. The more shards you buy, the bigger your block gets. The regions will always sort of be pre-designed, right? So it's going to be really hard to do that in like a block to shard ratio. But I mean, 100 blocks versus 300 blocks versus 500 or shards or whatever, to get bigger and bigger pieces of land is something that, you know, wouldn't hurt my feelings in any way, shape, or form. That'd be a pretty good idea.
I mean, I think it's quite interesting, you know, if we think about it, like the potential possibility of engaging people through shards or through Upliftium in the mine test server. I mean, it could go multiple ways. Again, go over to the Discord if you have an idea and drop it, you know, in the DAO proposal channel and workshop it, because I think that there's a lot of cool things that could potentially happen. I mean, it doesn't necessarily always, I'm just going to throw this idea out there, it doesn't necessarily always have to be, you know, so many shards for one piece of land. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity to be able to play the system. For example, what if you had a leaderboard and the top 10 people were able to trade in those shards? What if you flip the whole dynamic on its head? I mean, I'm just throwing out ideas here, but I know that the people who are engaged in our community have a lot, and that's the one of the most beautiful things about the DAO, and is that people can go in there and people can suggest ideas and they can workshop ideas, and once it's in stone, I mean, that's kind of, once it's been voted on by the DAO, the only way to get rid of it is to vote on it again, right? Like, if you want to change the direction of the Uplift world, that's great. Go write a proposal. I mean, you might not be on the same page as some of the people in the early days who decided the mind test confirmation of direction was the best plot, and that's 100% fine. It's your job now to go and figure out why Unreal or any of these other engines are better, and convince all of the token holders to basically overthrow the previous DAO agreement. And that's what the beautiful thing about a DAO is, right? We can always keep workshopping these things. It's kind of, a majority rules kind of vote and post. So, but I agree. I think mind test is very promising. I think it was a little bit hard for some people to get in there. But what we have noticed a lot actually is some of the people who have been trickling into the mind test test server that were really, grinding their heels in over on the Minecraft worlds, that really didn't want to do that. And they've actually become some of the most solid entrepreneurs on this whole new adventure world that we're creating, right? It's not that difficult to get in there. And if you really care about the Uplift and you really enjoyed all of your time playing those games or creating your galleries, like, now's the time to go in there and make your voice heard. Because even more so than the amazing galleries that were showcased in our Minecraft worlds, I mean, we can do things in this world that people didn't even know. I mean, I was kind of like, what's happening? What's going on? I don't know what's going. Hey, wait a minute, we got robots that are customizable. What's happening there? Like, there's some really interesting people with some interesting ideas out there. Get in there and do it. So, what do you got on the bill for the rest of the week, Corey? I know you've got a lot of updates on the back end, some of them not. Is there anything that you can give us that you'll be working on that we haven't already discussed?
I think my biggest priority, other than we got a bunch of shows and tech demos and stuff, I'm still doing a bunch of work with the New Moon Accelerator, still doing a bunch of work with the IBM Accelerator. There's a possibility of getting into an AWS Accelerator. Where I got sick down in Miami was still kind of worth it, because I met one of the team leaders behind the freaking Animoca Brands Accelerator that I want to get us into. So, like, a lot of good kind of networking, expanding our capabilities kind of stuff there. For me, I think that the biggest idea that I need to really grab by the hand and get over the finish line is the one-on-one NFT conversion thing, so that you can turn your generic land NFT into something with a picture or even a video on it of the actual build itself. Just because I know, like, I'm going to end up using that a lot. I think it's going to 2 to 10x the throughput in the collection itself. I just think whether it's the landscape that you want to show off, or a video walkthrough of a gallery, right? Like, you should be able to do like a 10-second fly through video of some of the more amazing builds. And those will cost more, but the resale value on those things is dramatically higher than normal anyway. Like, I think that to me is sort of the lowest hanging fruit technically, and the highest potential gain for the entire Uplift World collection and DAO. So that's, I think, on my mind the most. But then tech demos for Mind Test, we're going to start pushing the videos out there so that people can actually see what we've been doing, and then working with Dennis to finish off whatever crazy app he's got going on. We're going to be working on finishing that as well. So basically that, and really, like, Gary keeps reminding this, and I fucking love Gary for this, but I am not allowed to push it, which is exactly what I feel like doing right now, because then I'll just get sick again, and nobody needs that shit. So all of that stuff, at a hopefully responsible pace and doing more than one show a week with my buddy Jimmy. That's like number one. Number one, more than one show a week with Jimmy.
It's interesting, you know, like I kind of miscalculated some things. I mean, I'm glad that I did, because like being in North America, but I forgot how, well, I didn't forget because I don't think I ever really knew, but I should have known. I'm a smart guy. How difficult 2 toddlers could be. So you know, and so I think my goal as well is to do this, right? Like I want to have a chill show with you. I want to have I want to get back to having a chill show with you at least once a week. I want to get back to having like a tech show or a DAO show with you at least once a week. And I want to, you know, more importantly, get back to like potentially doing a happy hour show. I mean, those are some of the funnest shows that we did, right? And so, I mean, once you get over this shitstorm that you've been in for the last few months, right? I know, and I know you've been busy doing other things as well, right? Like, I mean, that's what you do in the bear market. You get quiet and you build, and you go back to doing what you're good at. I mean, definitely follow us on our other social channels or with the other things that we're doing, right? I mean, you're out and about doing what you love the most, potentially the playing live music again, right? Like we've got some really interesting things that are happening over in the Jenner EOS with the Pomelo grants and shows like that. But like ultimately, I think all of the projects that, you know, love the Uplift, you're going to continue to love it, because that's what the metaverse is about. It's about bringing people together and being able to showcase all of these things. I mean, of course, we do have the land recycling program. We have the regeneration program, all of these old things. We've got tons of articles. I mean, we've got I don't even know, but like on the site, I think over the last year, less than a year, we've published, you know, almost 500 articles, I think.
Very busy, dude. Like the blog is very serious.
Yeah, and so like if you have a build on one of the old, you know, Minecraft servers, like definitely hit us up. We'd love to like share that around, some of the pictures, right? I mean, one of my favorite things that's happening in the Uplift world right now in the test server is Devonia 59. She's actually been trying to replicate some of her old builds on Minecraft over on Minetest. Right. And so she's made these same builds. She had a mushroom house over on one of the Minecraft, I think it was on Uplift, and she decided to replicate it over on Minetest and see how it looked. And so I'd encourage all of you to play around with those ideas too, right? Because that helps us to see, you know, the potential, or see what, you know, blocks are good, or crafting tables and all of this stuff. That's beyond my purview. Again, that goes back to Gary the architect, because he's just brilliant at doing what he does. But definitely go out there and check out and just play around with it. I mean, build something new, build something old. I mean, build something blue, and you know, reconnect with the Uplift test server. So I don't know, you know, what's on your plate for later this week, Corey, but if you're feeling up to it, maybe we do try to do a happy hour show later in the week and hit up something. But if you got a project out there that wants to come on and chat with us, I mean, I know TC, we had you slated, get in touch, because we're more than happy to host people as well.
Yeah, I'd love to have TC on just for chill chat. Yeah, I know we had an aggressive schedule, and I basically had to cancel it all because I stopped being able to breathe normally. Pain in the ass. On that note, I'm gonna go take some cough drops and not talk for the next couple hours. But thank you very much for coming and hanging out, and to everybody else for showing up and saying hello and you know, catching up is always really cool.
Questions, put them in the you know, questions channel over in the DAO comments. Please drop them.
That's a good idea. We should do another AMA, like let that channel fill up again, and we'll bring everybody in to you know, do some Q&A.
Yeah, I mean, that would be great. All right, well, thanks everyone for coming and joining us, and we'll catch up with you guys very soon.